Toot didn't complain. Every morning she woke up at 5 a.m., she would board the 6:30 bus to arrive at her downtown office before anyone else.
You got some money?
One day, I awoke to the sound of an argument, my grandmother's voice barely audible, followed by my grandfather's deep growl. What was wrong?
She's been catching the bus ever since she started at the bank. And now, just because she gets pestered a little, she wants to change everything. A man asked me for money yesterday, while I was waiting for the bus. He was very aggressive, Barry. Very aggressive. I gave him $1 and he kept asking.
Listen, why don't you just let me give her a ride, Gramps? She seems pretty upset.
By a panhandler?
Yeah, I know, but it's probably a little scary for her seeing some big man block her way. It's really no big deal.
It's a big deal to me. You know why she's so scared? I'll tell you why. She told me the fellow was black. That's the real reason why she's bothered. And I just don't think that's right.
The words were like a fist in my stomach, and I wobbled to regain my composure. Never had they given me reason to doubt their love, and yet I knew that men who might easily have been my brothers could still inspire their rawest fears. I spent the last 2 years of high school in a daze, attended classes sparingly, drank beer heavily, and tried drugs enthusiastically. It was at the start of my senior year in high school, and one day she marched into my room, wanting to know the details of my friend Pablo's recent arrest.
Don't you think you're being a little casual about your future?
What do you mean?
You know exactly what I mean. One of your friends was just arrested for drug possession.
I wouldn't do anything stupid. It was usually an effective tactic, another one of those tricks I had learned. People were satisfied so long as you were courteous and smiled and made no sudden moves.
Your grades are slipping, and you haven't even started on your college application.
I didn't need to hear all this. It wasn't like I was flunking out. I'd been thinking about maybe not going away for college. Could stay in Hawaii and take some classes and work part-time.
Bob, you just can't sit around like a good-time Charlie.
A good-time Charlie, huh? Well, why not? Maybe that's what I want out of life. I mean, look at Gramps. He didn't even go to college. Is that what you're worried about? That I'll end up like Gramps? But the certainty had finally drained from her voice. Instead of pushing the point, I stood up and left the room. I was accepted into several respectable schools and settled on Occidental College in Los Angeles. Sophomore year, I got involved in the divestment campaign, part of the radical pose my friends and I sought to maintain. I noticed that people had begun to listen to my opinion. I was only supposed to make a few opening remarks, in the middle of which a couple of white students would come on stage to drag me away, a way to dramatize the situation for activists in South Africa. There's a struggle going on. I say there's a struggle going on. It's happening an ocean away, but it's a struggle that touches each and every one of us. A struggle that demands we choose sides. It's a choice between dignity and servitude, between fairness and injustice, between commitment and indifference, a choice between right and wrong.
Go with it, Barack.
Tell it like it is.
They started yanking me off the stage, and I was supposed to act like I was trying to break free, except a part of me wasn't acting. I really wanted to stay up there. I had so much left to say. So eager was I to escape the imagined traps that white authority had set for me. To that white world, I had been willing to cede the values of my childhood, as if those values were somehow irreversibly soiled by the endless falsehoods that white spoke about black. I chose my friends carefully. The Marxist professors and structural feminists, the more politically active black students, and yet I gathered up books from the library, Baldwin, Ellison, Hughes, Wright, Du Bois. Only Malcolm X's autobiography seemed to offer something different. His repeated acts of self-creation spoke to me, and yet even as I imagined myself following Malcolm's call, one line in the book stayed with me. He spoke of a wish he'd once had, the wish that the white blood that ran through him might somehow be expunged.
You're reading too much of that racist shit. Malcolm X? Okay. But Heart of Darkness? That's some racist shit. Makes you embarrassed, don't it? I'm telling you, man, that stuff will poison your mind. Sister Regina? You know Barack, don't you? I'm trying to tell Brother Barack about the racist trash he's been reading. Damn, I'm late for class. Talk to this brother, will you? I think he can be saved.
Marcus is in one of his preaching moods, I see.
Actually, he's right. It is a racist book. The way Conrad sees it, black folks are savages. and any contact with them breeds infection.
So, why are you reading it?
Because it's a sign, and because the book teaches me things. About white people, I mean. The European, the American. So I read the book to help me understand what it is that makes white people so afraid. Their demons. The way ideas get twisted around. It helps me understand how people learn to hate.
And that's important to you?
My life depends on it. That's the only way to cure an illness, right? Diagnose it.
What did Marcus call you?
Barack.
I thought your name was Barry.
Barack's my given name. My father's name. He was Kenyan. My grandfather was a Muslim.
So, why does everybody call you Barry?
Habit, I guess. I had felt my voice returning to me that afternoon with Regina. But entering my sophomore year, I could feel it growing stronger, sturdier. That constant, honest portion of myself. A bridge between my future and my past. In 1983, I decided to become a community organizer. That's what I'll do. I'll organize black folk. I had all but given up on organizing when I received a call from a guy named Marty Kaufman. He explained that he'd started an organizing project in Chicago and was looking to hire a trainee. He needed somebody to work with him, somebody black.
You must be angry about something. That's the only reason somebody becomes an organizer. What do you know about Chicago?
The Cubs never win. America's most segregated city. A black man, Harold Washington, was just elected mayor, and white people don't like it.
I'm surprised you haven't gone to work for Harold.
I tried. His office didn't write back.
Organizing potential black voters should help your career.
Marty offered to start me off at $10,000 the first year, with a $2,000 travel allowance to buy a car. The salary would go up if things worked out. A week later, I loaded up my car and drove to Chicago.
When I asked for other pastors to talk, several gave me the name of Reverend Wright. Younger ministers seemed to regard Reverend Wright as a mentor of sorts, his church a model for what they themselves hoped to accomplish. The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning was The Audacity of Hope.
I felt the tears running down my cheeks.
Where white folks' greed runs a world in need, apartheid in one hemisphere, apathy in another hemisphere, that's the world on which hope sits.
They're going to try to say that I'm a risky guy. They're going to try to say, well, you know, he's got a funny name, and he doesn't look like all the presidents on the dollar bills and the $5 bills. And, you know, but you know, what they're going to try to argue is that somehow I'm too risky.